Let's do it. Talking slabs tonight. And if any of you have been to one of my talks before, you know that I do not believe you should believe me just because I have a microphone and a confident stage presence. So, who am I, and why should you listen to me? I graduated with my doctorate from the School of Engineering at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 2014. It's a true fact. Why does that matter? A little later on in the talk, I'm going to use the phrase intermetallic mediated solubility retardation of a eutectic composition. And I want you to know that I mean that, and I know what that means. Right? But also, believe me when I say that when I scrape the curb, I bleed 713. Houston is in my veins, baby.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about tonight. If you've been to one of my talks, you also know audience interaction is very important to me. So, we are going to open with a quiz. If you've ever been to a medical talk, this is called a pre-test, and then later on there's going to be a post-test when you come get the cookies and tell me what you learned. So, we're going to give you 3 scenarios. You're going to vote on if these are good or bad. Scenario number 1, you've parked at the combination Kratom store and children's school, and you have dripped some of Ike's grape jelly. Raise your hand if that's good. Hey Shane, love you baby. Raise your hand if that's good. Raise your hand if you think that's bad. All right. We're in good shape here. That's good, actually. Okay, we're good. Next. You are driving your crush to the bombed out Fuddruckers off 59. There is no mustard and no mayo on your fresh kicks. Is that good? Raise your hands. All right?
Is that bad?
Is that bad? Raise your hands.
The first one was good.
Okay. Boom. That's a bad thing. Good. We got some learning to do tonight. I'm excited. One more. You're rolling out from the bombed out Disco Kroger that you bought and demolished.
Oh.
And you hear some clacking. Is that good? Raise your hands. Is that bad? Raise your hands. Secret third thing, trick question is actually both. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. All right, enough with the bullshit. What is a slab? Boom! This could be the talk, right? I'm just going to pause here, pose with this beautiful motherfucker for 15 minutes. And yeah, actually here, let's do this. Shout out what you notice is different about this car. Swangers, red, rims, sound, yep, okay. Pop truck, no roof, my man got it, okay. Bun B, Bernard Freeman, Bun B counts 13 unique characteristics that define this car as a slab. These are the lyrics from his eminent song, You're Everything, also featuring David Banner, who went to my fucking high school, baby.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to give you a broad overview, and then we're going to do the deep dive, okay? To really understand slabs, you got to go back at least to the 70s. There's an argument in a book that I'm going to reference later that you actually have to go back to the 30s, which I think is a fair argument, but I don't want to keep you all here till 10 o'clock, because I will. So we're going to start in the 70s. Blaxploitation films and the Pitmobile. This is the precursor to the slab, not the actual slab. To get the actual slab, you need the 1970s and 80s, a company called Krager Wire Wheels. We're going to talk about what they do a little bit later on. In the 80s is when the slab was first created, specifically in Sunnyside neighborhood, Southside Houston. Slab is a uniquely Houston creation that is intimately tied to community, culture, and music. Notice I put DJ Screw in there as well. The creation of the slab is intimately linked to the music culture of Houston. It's going to be really important. 1994 is a seminal year. You'll notice it's one of the only ones that's a single year. You get 2 singles that year. Tops Drop by Fat Pat, who has the first instance of a slab in a music video, and Wanna Be a Baller by Lil Troy, who begins calling out the specific people in Houston who do slab customization. 90s and 2000s are followed by a period that is no bueno. It's a period called the Slab Wars, which would make a badass album title, but is actually a period of intense violence, street retribution, and overall mass sadness. This comes to an end, thankfully, in the early 2000s when there is unity for the city. 2004, you get the single Still Tippin', you get national view of a slab. 2006, you have mainstream availability of the slabs because of a company called Texan Wire Wheels, and then you have sort of the future of the slabs comes full circle when the Houston Arts Alliance and the Houston Museum of African American Culture, together with a guy named Langston Collin Wilkins, put together the first annual slab parade in 2013, fully squashed the beefs. So that's the history. Let's do the deep dive. We're going to start ground up and put the slab into 4 components. And we're going to start with the one everybody knows, the definitive feature of the slab, swangers. Put yourself in the mind of a Cadillac executive. The year is 1979. Your Eldorado, which up until now has been your bread and butter baby, sales are lagging. You need something to pump them up. What are you going to do? If any of you are computer nerds, you know the phrase OEM. This is when a manufacturer contracts with a third party who might have specific expertise in manufacturing. They make a component specifically for that company, but the company has to brand it themselves, right? So it's associated with them, but it's got the high quality manufacturing of a third party. That's Cadillac's idea. They contract with a company called Krager Wheels. This is a company going back to the 20s. They're most known in the hot rod American muscle car scene, but they make a specific rim design for the 1979 Eldorado. They take 30 spokes, they recess them into the wheel depth. These only work on 4-wheel drive cars at this point. And they put the center cap extended out about 4 inches, but you'll notice there's a significant amount of depth to the wheels. These still don't poke out past the tire, but they do have this very specific look. This is manufactured from 79 to 83, and it works. These Eldorados sell like gangbusters with these new special rims. It works so well that they decide, let's take it another step. 1984, they redo the design. They significantly reduce the depth of the rim. They bring the 30 wires out. They extend the center cap so that it pokes 4 inches out from the rim. These are the coveted 84s. If you've ever heard a rap song reference 84s, this is what they're talking about, okay? But the keen-eyed among you, any metallurgists, any welders in the audience tonight, by any chance? Okay, here's that phrase, okay? So, look on the design to the left, okay? Recessed within the wheel is where you have the attachment of the spokes. In the modern design, you have had to move that outside of the frame of the wheel, so it's now exposed to the air. And notice these really big pieces, those are welds, okay? Welding is a process where you melt 2 metals, and this is where you have intermetallic solubility mediated ductility retardation in a eutectic mixture. This is real. The weld point there becomes hard but brittle. And because these are exposed to the outside, they're exposed to the curb, very frequently these welds will separate at the rim level, and they will start to make noise as they roll. They'll stay attached at the center post, disconnected at the end, and they start to clack it. That is where that phrase comes from, if you've ever heard that. This is why, here's your first test answer, this is why it is both good and bad that you start to hear that clacking. Because number 1, it means you have authentic 84 rims, which were made for only 1 year because of that design flaw. It's bad because it means you are out about $1,000 to fix that wheel. Okay? Now, keep in mind, so I've just said this is the definitive wheel. This is made for 1 year for 1 model of cars, which means that when slabs are created by a man named Toast in the Sunnyside neighborhood, first person to take a car, put candy paint on it, put his rims on it, upgrade the sound system. There are estimated, at the time, about 50 4-wheel sets of 84s in the city of Houston. 50. So that means there's a cap on the number of slabs you can have in Houston. This is when the slab wars begin. Pretty soon after the South Side begins making these slabs, these become known as dead man's wheels. The Houston carjacking rate is 150% the national average during this time, and the Houston murder rate is 200% the national average at this time over these wheels. These become coveted. If you ever hear a rap song talk about 84s representing respect or rolling one deep on your 84s, this is why. It means that you are taking your life into your hands, and that's the amount of respect that you command on the streets. And that's the slab game all through the 80s and 90s. It is limited in what you can get. 2006, a company called Texan Wire Wheels, bizarrely based out of California for some reason, buys the rights to the Krager design and puts things off the fucking rails and says 4 inches, fuck you, 26 inches. of steel. Notice, no welds, baby. There is no tin content here. That's why welds are brittle, high tin content. We talk about that later. It's really cool. They make a 12D crystal. Anyway, this is also where you start to have a second thing you need to talk about with your rims. Rim culture at this point in the rap game, huge. 22s, 26s. I put Cadillac rims on my spaceship. If you came to my grills talk, you know about Cash Money and I would go way back. But now, in addition to your inches number, you also need your G number. G number is how far out from the rim the swanger, the elbow, pokes out. Current largest they sell is the giraffe poke at a G26. Now, on each of these, I'm going to give you a little pocket guide that you can take out. We're going to get the slang list so you can know what the fuck people are talking about. So, if you've ever heard swangers, if you've heard elbows, 83s, 84s, G whatever, G12s, G6s, G18s, pokes, super pokes. This is also known as riding glass because these are high polished chrome, they're mirror shine. So when I'm riding glass, it means I'm riding these 84s. And we talked about clacking and what that means. So we got our rims, okay? Next we need to wrap it in 4 Vogues. These are Vogue tires made in the 1910s with the patented gold stripe to go along with their white wall. Later on in Texas, Vogue introduced the patented red stripe. This is a 1990s modification they first bring to the Houston market. This is where you'll see phrases mustard and mayo on my shoes. That's the gold stripe and the white wall. You'll also hear in some Houston songs, I got salsa and sour cream on my shoes. That's the red stripe Houston variant of the Vogue tire, okay? So we got our wheels. Now we're gonna move to the body. First thing you're gonna need, regardless of the model of car, it could be a Buick, it could be a Cadillac, whatever, you're gonna get a Cadillac Classic front grille, you're gonna get the CC emblem, and you're gonna get a Cadillac Eldorado hood ornament and put it on there, okay? This is your grill and woman, okay? Look, see, this occurs in a whole lot of songs, and a lot of people think grill in this case means the mouth grill. I gave that talk, go on YouTube, and think it means the woman next to you in the car. It's not. Slab shining with the grill and woman means you are coming down, and the first thing the person sees is that Cadillac grill, Cadillac hood ornament, regardless of the make of the car, right? So now we got our hood. Next, you need candy paint. This is another place where the geography of slabs is going to be intimately related to their design. Candy paint, the version you see on slabs, invented right here in Houston by a guy named Lil Ike Caballero in the 80s. Ike's Custom Cars been in business since the 40s. 3rd generation, they're still around today. He's the first person to invent this triple layer system. You put a silver base coat, put a high candy, a high shiny primary colored main coat, and then you put up to 16 clear top coats. That's how you get that glass, shiny, wet, dripping look, right? Also, this is where you get slab lines. So remember I talked about the danger of rolling with 84s? Because of that, what becomes very common is slab owners from a single neighborhood will agree on a color of their candy paint, and when they go out to ride slab, they will do so in a group called a slab line. This is where you get, if you've ever heard a Houston song, they know about those south side reds, those north side blues. Those are 2 of the primary colors. You also see orange from the Hiram Clark neighborhood, gold from the east side neighborhood, and MLK green from that neighborhood. So this is where you talk about dripping stains because of the wet look paint. This is where you talk about getting sprayed by Ike in the Lil Troy song, Wanna Be a Baller. Swisher Roll Tight got sprayed by Ike. That's Lil Ike Caballero, meaning I have the authentic candy paint. Next, you're gonna wanna drop the top, okay? This is an optional one. You'll notice a lot of these slabs are hardtop, but the classic slab has an invisible top or a missing roof, or it ain't got no ceiling, or it ain't got no brains. It's a jellyfish on wheels because it has no brain. It's, Cockney rhyming slang got nothing on what they invent in the slab slang culture, okay? So we're gonna drop the top. Then we're gonna move to the interior, okay? Number 1, you're gonna need redone upholster, all leather, baby, okay? This is where you're gonna hear the phrase stitch and tuck. That means this is custom done leather, no visible stitching, no visible outwork of the leather, all tucked in. It's also where you're gonna start to hear, a lot of times you're gonna talk about pita bread seats, ice cream, peanut butter. You get that rich brown leather on the interior. After that, you need wood on the dash, baby. You're gonna get a wood grain wheel, wood grain on the dashboard, okay? Aftermarket wheels. This is where you talk about catching splinters as you're riding your slab, or working the wood, okay? After that, you're gonna put screens in the headrest and in the visors. You're gonna get at least 4 TV screens. You want 2 in the back. This is, again, really interesting piece of slab culture. You put them in the back seat so the people behind you in traffic can see what you are watching. Okay, now, last, move the trunk. Talked about the swangers being the most definitive part of the slab. I'm going to argue the trunk is the most Houston-specific piece of the slab. Number 1, you got to have the system. Okay, you're gonna get kickers, you're gonna get bangers, you're gonna get amps. There's gonna need a second battery. You're gonna draw so much power in this amp system that you would run the car's battery down. So you're gonna get at least 1 second battery to go with your 4 15s in the back. Hide the wires in a beautiful trunk kit. And this is where you're gonna be banging as you come down. This is where you talk about your 15s kicking, or your kickers, or your amps, right? After that, because your trunk is so full of speakers and you're turned up so high, you got your knock turned up, you're gonna need to strap it down, get a bumper kit, also known as a continental kit. This is one of my favorite pieces because this is an example of function following form, then following function again. So this starts as an entirely functional thing. In the 1941 Lincoln Continental model, there is no room in the trunk for a full-size spare tire, so they mount it on an exterior molded fiberglass case. So you can have a full-size spare tire, and that's known as a Continental kit, okay? So that becomes standard on a whole lot of cars, including most of these Cadillac models that are the prototypes of the slab. Well, if I've got a full-size spare back there, and there's a chance I might have to put it on the car because you've driven in Houston, you've had a flat tire, I don't want to be riding 3 swangers. That's gonna look stupid. My spare tire needs the swanger too, right? Of course. But my spare tire's there, I need to open my trunk to show off my 15s, okay? So what you do is you mount your spare tire on what's called a Continental kit or a bumper kit. It's an actuator-controlled rotating bracket so you can still access the trunk. This is where you're gonna talk about your 5th wheel falling down, okay? Also, the keen-eyed among you will spot you can sometimes ride a 6th wheel if you really want to get extra bonus points. So this is when you talk about your wheel being on the ground, your wheel dragging, because keep in mind, angles, Pythagorean theorem, you're gonna have to calculate the angle of your bumper kit based on the length of your G so that your rim does not scrape the ground, right? So you're gonna see different angles when you drop that bumper kit, and that's something you can control when you get it installed. This is also where you see 6th wheel. If Paul Wall talks about suplexing his 5th wheel, that's what we're talking about, is dropping that bumper kit. Okay? Next, because you have so much power in that trunk, you're gonna strap that trunk down with belts. Okay? This was originally done on the Cadillac Baritz model, the slant back trunk. These have always been non-functional. Okay? These were never actually used to close the trunk. They've always simply been molded because it's a cool look. But they take on new meaning in the slab because they're holding it down under the power of all that bass, right? So this is where you talk about having belts and buckles on your trunk. After that, you need your trunk display. This is the definitive, unique piece of Houston car culture. Was what you have is a full-size molded piece of the inside trunk with a neon light message. This is an outgrowth of actually just back window decals, is how this starts, right? So when you very first make that first slab that Toast makes in Sunnyside in the 85, 86 era, he doesn't have a neon back sign. He just has lettering across the back window to say Sunnyside. Over time, as you install those back screens, you can play a message on those back screens, but we just keep going. We keep iterating, we make it bigger because it's Texas. You put the whole fucking back trunk to be your message. This can be a memorial to fallen friends. This can be an inspirational quote. No shit, all honesty, if there are culture anthropology and linguistics grad students in the audience, the specific language of the trunk message is studyable, and there is no academic content on this. The specific messaging, the use of emojis, the use of place names, the use of shorthand to get the full message in there, there is something cool here worthy of study. This is where you're gonna get your trunk waving, pop in the trunk, roll in the slab line, okay? You have now made a slab. So I heard somebody shout it out earlier. So where the fuck's that term come from, right? Okay, what does it mean?
Slow, loud, and banging.
Okay, I heard both. There's controversy. Is it slow, low, and banging? Is it slow, loud, and banging? Neither! Those are backronyms. A backronym is something that is made after the fact. Very first use of the term slab was when Toast said we would hit the slab. This is the phrase that you would use when those slab lines would go to McGregor Park and show off. The initial meaning of slab was simply to hit the slab, meaning the concrete of the road. Later on, both of these backronyms were developed for rap lyrics. So, where do we go from here? So it's car culture, right? These are just cars. Slab actually has a whole lot of place meaning to it, and slabs have begun to find their way into the fine art world. On the far left there, you see a sculpture by Houston artist Dozy Kanu called Slab Chair, where he repurposes that word slab for a double meaning. He both uses slab concrete as his sculptural material of choice. Notice the candy purple, the city of drank coloring on it. In 2021, there was a beautiful exhibit at the Museum of Contemporary Art called Dirty South, the Sonic Impulse, that used the imagery of the slab as the unifying piece. And then right here locally, local sculptor Kat Martinez, shout out to her, a good friend of mine, was in the Project Rowhouse's 55th line about drive-bys. She did an entire installation, an interactive piece about the slab as the symbol of nostalgia and of culture and of community. So you're starting to see some appreciation for what the slab means, not just as a car, but as a symbol. And that's actually where I want to end. I want to talk about the meaning of slabs. We talked about the car, we talked about how you make one. What does it mean to have a slab? Anybody know what this is?
It's a zoot suit.
Hell yeah! Who said that? My man, thank you, sir. That is a zoot suit. Zoot suits were popular in the 1940s with Mexican, African American, Chicano, Latino men. This is a specific style of suit, way too much fabric, way too long, excessive, right? Zoot suits were also the genesis for something known as the Zoot Suit riots in '43 in LA, when men wearing zoot suits, regardless of what they were doing, were targeted for violence by not only the state, but also by Navy men stationed there. As you often see, state actors came in, arrested the victims of those riots because they were the ones who were, being showy and being flashy. A little bit after the Zoot Suit riots, a man named Langston Hughes wrote one of the seminal pieces, Keychain with No Keys, for the Chicago Defender. There what he talks about is that when you are living a life of oppression, intergenerational poverty with no escape, when you do get a little bit of freedom and ability, too much is just enough because of where you came from. And what I want to do is I want to juxtapose this quote with one from another Langston, a guy named Langston Collin Wilkins. He's a local Houstonian. He's now a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He did his doctoral dissertation on ethnomusicology of Houston slab culture. And what he points out is that the slab, the car culture for African Americans, is the only site of liberation from Jim Crow South that those people have available to them. That is the one place you can be yourself and you can be safe. The slab is not just a car. And I bring this up because about once a month on the main Reddit page, if you go there, you'll see a video of a slab, and the comments will just be flooded with people wishing for their death. Right? These idiots with more money than sense. What the fuck has this been her shit? Why is this legal? And the tenor of the comments is identical to what you will find in 43 about zoot suiters and the trash that they're bringing and how we need to clean up these streets. And I know none of you would think this, because I know you're good people, but we're recording this, so later on for the YouTube, I would urge you to think about the slab as not just this ostentatious display of nothing. It is a physical manifestation of place and of hope. And if that's not American, I don't know what is. So I want to leave you with this. If you have seen these kind of bullshit CEO quotes, right? If you buy into these, right? If you're born poor, that's okay, but if you die poor, it's your own damn fault. And Warren Buffett's, I always knew I'd be rich. Well, yeah, because you're a fucking white guy born in the 50s. If these are inspirational to you, but this one is not, I would urge you to think about what the difference is. So I'll read it since I know not everybody can. This is a quote from a guy named Big Love. He's a local Houston slab customizer, slab owner. It's from a personal interview Collin Wilkins did with him. What he points out is the inspiration for slab creation actually comes from poverty. The idea that one day, if I have enough success, I've cared for my basic needs, and I can get something for myself, SLAB is a physical manifestation that I have, a representation that I have made it. It is the manifestation of what I wanted as a child. And that is a sentiment that is American as apple pie. So I will leave you with a couple of thoughts. This book, fucking fantastic, highly recommend it. It's not that long, it's only about 90 pages. Please get a copy of this, really good article on SLABs. Also, a few shout outs, designed by Kat D, sculptor right here in Houston. Please follow her, she's fantastic. My boy 290 Mob, local Houston boy, Don Julio, makes slab merchandise right here in town. Artistic Misfits, they make fantastic murals and make fantastic artwork based on slabs. Class Bookstore over on Sampson Street, you can pick up a copy of this book. David and Dara, fantastic people that run that book. Good Stuff Records, you want to bump some slab music, get up with my girl AJ. David Stuntz, local Houston filmmaker, documentarian, he's the one who brought Anthony Bourdain to the McGregor Park Slab Parade for that No Reservations episode, where a lot of these images are taken from. Find that episode, follow David Stuntz. Southside Supervillain, that's Colin Wilkins on Instagram, posts often, really beautiful insights. And finally, 150 fucking cookies from E Doublelicious Treats. Please eat those things. Thank you all, love you, Houston.